Hey, welcome to you on this Wednesday, December 16th edition of Lock It Up Sports Talk. My name is Logan Lockhart here on the Fines Huddle Network. It's going to be an NFL edition preview show, a recap of last week, week 14, which ended in a wild way. I mean, you had a Monday Night Football game that was instantly named the game of the year, which, it doesn't happen often where you get those instant classics. The last time I can think of a game like that was also a Monday Night Football game, and it was Chiefs-Rams 2018. That was a Monday night game, and that was high scoring, more high scoring than this one that we saw a couple days ago. But that was another game instantly. Game of the year, classic. And what I loved about Monday Night Football was this. That is the AFC North at its finest. I mean, that's why we love that division. This division is already interesting. It's already highly competitive. You have two teams going at it like that. You have a dynamic of Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson. These are both 2018 draft picks, and that's a story in itself. And Baker Mayfield, he is thriving in this system. And even though Cleveland lost the game, it doesn't really feel like it. The fallout of that game, I think there's a lot of positives out of Cleveland. And yeah, they lost the game, but it took a 55-yard field goal from Justin Tucker, who might be the most valuable kicker I've ever seen. There's been valuable kickers in the history of this league, but really, if you think about it, and I was reading different things, if someone offered the Baltimore Ravens a first-round pick for Justin Tucker, would they take it? I mean, that's how valuable he is. They come in, they win it at the last second. Baltimore, a game they had to win. They had to win that game. If they lost that game, things were looking rough. They're still really, if you want to break it down, they're on the outside looking in. And this is going to be another big week for Baltimore. They got Jacksonville. Lock it up. Fines Huddle Network. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to go through the picks, spreads, straight up, everything that you need to get ready for this week of NFL football. Next week on the show, we're going to have Tyler Milliken coming to us from Boston. He is from 98.5, the Sports Hub in Boston, the flagship station for all things Boston sports, Patriots, Bruins, Red Sox, Celtics. And he will join me next week for some MLB offseason talk, something that we haven't really done enough of on this show. We're going to do it next week, but we're going to go through what's happening in the NFL this week. It's week 15, which means we're going to get some Saturday football. Two games on Saturday, the Bills at Denver, and then Carolina at Green Bay. That's your Saturday night and afternoon slate. But what we saw last week was playoff races heating up in a big way. I mean, we're going to have a situation here in the NFL this year where it's going to come down possibly the tiebreakers. There's a game in the NFC this week that I just don't really know what to think about because you have two teams that are a mystery in a lot of ways. Chicago at Minnesota. This is a huge swing game in the NFC. Okay, I mean, the loser of this game, really, you can write off the season. Whoever loses this one. I'm going to take Minnesota. I'm going to get into it more as we go on. We're going to look at the spread. We're going to look at a whole lot of things straight up. But that's kind of the game that you got to keep your eye on. It's Chicago, Minnesota. Chicago, who was on the verge. I mean, they almost lost 7 games in a row, really. And then they had to beat Houston. Statement win. Okay, Houston's a bit of a mess. We understand. They get rid of Bill O'Brien. And you think that a spark's coming. And yeah, they saw something. But Houston right now, they need the offseason. I mean, the offseason, it can't come faster enough for the Houston Texans. It just can't. Okay, so you can forget about a whole spark. But that's the key word today, spark. There's some sparks going around. There's sparks in Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts. That gives you a spark. Absolutely. When you bench a guy like Carson Wentz, and we know all about Carson Wentz, but when you bench a guy like Wentz, with the contract that he has, with his pedigree in the city of Philadelphia on the field, when you bench him because he's playing that bad, it's going to kind of spark your football team a bit. Philadelphia with a big win last week at home, New Orleans. They kind of shocked New Orleans a bit. New Orleans was probably thinking that they're invincible with Taysom Hill. That didn't happen. But let's get into the picks. I'm going to go off Jazz Sports, their book here, with the spread and Thursday Night Football. So here we go. We're kind of getting back in the routine of being on a normal schedule. Of course, a couple of weeks ago, you had the cancellation of games. You had Tuesday Night Football and a couple of games on Monday and a whole lot of things going on. No Thursday Night Football. We got it back last week with the Patriots and Rams, and now we return with Thursday Night Football. That's tomorrow night, and that's Chargers at the Raiders. So the Raiders here, they're favored by 3. And I'm going to say this right now about the Raiders. I'm taking this. I'm taking the points of the Raiders because this is playoffs for them now. I mean, yeah, we're not at the playoffs yet, but there's a few teams in this league right now where it is playoffs. And with the Raiders, can you imagine a couple of weeks ago, they walked into MetLife Stadium, they were playing the winless Jets, and they just won. I mean, they just stole it. They almost lost that game. And if they lost that game, this season would have been over. Think about that for a second. It was a game against the Jets that they almost lost that may have influenced their season. The Raiders, I'm going to trust that Gruden and Derek Carr, and then Rod Marinelli, who I watched a lot of course, watching a lot of Dallas Cowboys football. He was, big part of that defense last few years. Not so great, up and downs with Marinelli. But I'm going to trust that he gets this defense together with the Raiders, and the Raiders are struggling. Okay, let's not get it twisted here. They're coming off another hiccup last week, and they're the kind of team that you just don't know what they're all about. And I say that because this is the only team this year to beat Kansas City. Okay, so the Raiders are a mystery. But I still like what's going on with Vegas. I really do. I like John Gruden. And the Chargers, primetime game Thursday night, how can I trust the Chargers to win a primetime game? How can I? With the clock management and the coaching, Anthony Lynn, I mean, it's just a mystery. I'm not liking the Chargers at all, but I do like the Raiders. And for 3 points, I can see where they're going when it comes to building a spread for this game. I can see that. The over-under is 53. And I would go under here, and I would take the Raiders on the points. -3, give me Vegas on Thursday Night Football. Now we go to Saturday. So a doubleheader on Saturday. Those Buffalo Bills, wow, they are for real. I'm telling you. And I was thinking when I was watching Monday Night Football, the fans in Cleveland were fantastic. The ones that were there, the ones that were allowed to be there, of course, not full capacity. But I was thinking that with Buffalo the night before on Sunday night. I'm going, can you imagine if this place was packed right now? The Buffalo Bills, I mean, the place would just be rocking. It would be crazy in Buffalo. It's unfortunate that we can't see that, but, you can only imagine at this point. And the Bills, they're for real. When it comes to the AFC, and if you're going to bring up the whole conversation of who can stop the Kansas City Chiefs, you know what? You kind of have to put Buffalo right in that conversation. I mean, I think that generally, as football observers, journalists, fans, whoever you may be, if you're having a conversation about the AFC, you're feeling a lot better about Buffalo than Pittsburgh. And that's just the reality right now. Buffalo's kind of the team in the AFC other than Kansas City. They go into Denver this week, and let's make it very clear. Denver is not an easy place to walk into. Okay, I know there's not fans, but regardless of that, Denver, this is something to keep out for. It's not an easy place to walk into, especially if you're a team like Buffalo. And if you look at the spread, you're looking at Buffalo favored by 6. Now, I was going back and forth on the spread here. I'm still going to take Buffalo on the points. Denver is kind of a spoiler team right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if Denver starts being the spoiler, just like Miami was last year, right? I mean, I can see that being a potential scenario here going down the stretch. Denver's a team that entering the season, we were all over Denver saying how they're finally ready for a wild card. We like Drew Lock. You know what? Denver next season, I think that they're going to come back strong. I like what Denver's doing there. This isn't their year, of course. Injuries have been a big part of that. And, of course, COVID-19. But with the Buffalo Bills, they are the better team. And I think that if we're going to start talking about the Bills being this AFC powerhouse, this is a game that they win, and this is a game that they win by 6 points or more. That's just how it's going to go. So give me the Bills here, but I do want to stress that whole idea with Denver being the spoiler potentially, in the last 3 weeks here. And then it's also not an easy place to play, Denver. Okay? I mean, you can be the best football team in the world. It's difficult. It's difficult. It's not just the weather, it's the altitude. Of course, stating the obvious. That's just how it is with Denver. But give me Buffalo -6 here. I'll take them on the points. Carolina at Green Bay. And I got to say, out of all the weeks in Week 15, this is the game for me that was the easiest to pick because I've seen this movie before. A weird time slot, Saturday, Carolina on a shorter week. I can see Aaron Rodgers on this game. And I know Patrick Mahomes should be the MVP, but Aaron Rodgers is going to continue to make a case in this game. The line's 8, and I'm taking that. I'm taking the Packers -8. You know what? I'm feeling really confident about the Packers putting up a lot of points this week. I think Carolina is really going to struggle. So that is Thursday and Saturday. So you got 3 games there. So a little extra football this week, which is always good if you're a big fan of the NFL and just if you like sports in general. It's been kind of a dry year for sports. Let's be quite honest. I mean, we're kind of going through the phases here of when's this league coming back and when's that league coming back. We were doing this back in the spring, remember? And into the summer. We're kind of back at that point, but there is NFL football. Houston at Indianapolis. I was talking about Houston a little earlier. When it comes to the Colts, I'm going to relate the Colts a lot to the Raiders, and I'm also going to relate the Colts a lot to Tennessee, who I'm going to talk about in a minute. But the Colts, this is playoffs for them right now. I mean, first of all, you have a chance at the division, right? So you got to keep that in mind. But at the same time, you cannot start falling behind teams on the bubble. And I'm referring to Baltimore specifically. Baltimore is ticked off. I think they're really ticked off because people are starting to write off the Ravens and say, no, it's over. It's not their year. I think that ticks off Baltimore because Baltimore's a really good football team. They're incredible on both sides of the ball. Offensively, it hasn't been there this year. Okay, they put up a lot of points on that Monday night game. But when you talk about the Ravens and you talk about defensively, hey, at the beginning of the year, we were talking about how that secondary, that could be an all-time secondary. Okay, with Humphrey and Peters. I mean, that's what the conversation was. This is the same Baltimore team. Okay, so to write them off would, number one, be irresponsible, and it would just be wrong. And you see Cleveland, really good football team. Okay, the Browns are another team that's for real. And the Browns are a team that I don't think that you want to play them. If you're going to match up in the playoffs with someone, you probably don't want to play the Browns. So Baltimore walks into Cleveland in a fierce rival game. They pull it out late. Baltimore's for real. This is what my point is. If you're Indianapolis, if you're Tennessee, and they host Detroit, you got to be very careful here because there are teams on the bubble catching up here. Baltimore is 8-5. Tennessee and Indianapolis, they're both 9-4. Only one team can win the division. The other one could be a wild card. But if Baltimore continues to win, and Baltimore's got Jacksonville this week, this is huge. Huge game for both these teams. Houston, Indianapolis. Look, I think Indianapolis is going to win this game outright. If we're really going to look at it, 7 points. I think it's quite a bit. I would be a little cautious on this one, especially when Deshaun Watson's on the other side. But I'll take it. I'll take Indianapolis. I think they can win this by 10 points. I would feel comfortable on that. So give me Indianapolis there. I talked about Tennessee. They got Detroit. Detroit's a bit of a mystery as well. They get rid of Patricia. The spark comes in, and the Lions, somehow, the Detroit Lions are kind of in the conversation here. They're not going to make the playoffs. We're not going to get crazy here. But they're kind of in the conversation here. I mean, they're going to kind of have to win outright. I don't think that's going to happen. Tennessee, I like them to win this game. And currently on Jazz Sportsbook, there is no spread. I'm going to take Titans, though. I'm going to take them here. It depends on the spread, though. I mean, if we're looking at a 10-point spread, that'd be very dangerous. I think that Derrick Henry, he will find a way to run all over this Lions defense. Give me Tennessee at home. Again, though, I want to stress that about the AFC South. Those are huge, huge games because Baltimore winning, that's not good news for either of these teams. It just isn't. Chicago, Minnesota, and I talked about this game a little bit earlier. A huge swing game. The loser of this game, like I said, you can write off their season. Okay, it's over. The loser of this game. That's why this game, it reminds me a lot of the AFC South in a way. I mean, this is crucial points now this season. When you look at a spread, the Vikings right now, they're -3. Look, this is going to be one of those games. It could come down to a field goal. To me, this is a pick 'em. I'm going to take the Vikings outright. And I'm going to say that, hey, I like Kirk Cousins better than Mitch Trubisky. I like Dalvin Cook to run over this Bears defense and give the Bears defense a little more trouble than what they've seen. Okay, the Bears defense, they showed up against Houston. I understand. But you can't forget about Dalvin Cook. And you can't forget about what's happening there in Minnesota. When it comes to -3, that's a dangerous, dangerous spread to deal with here. If you're interested in sports betting, if you're that kind of person, then I would avoid this game altogether. I just would. Because that's a dangerous spread. You're being trapped into something there when it's -3 Minnesota. I think Minnesota's going to win the game outright. However, let's move on to Seattle and Washington. And what we have here is a scenario where the Washington football team have, just because Alex Smith is out now, it's going to be Dwayne Haskins. And what that tells me is that this team's taken some steps back. What I liked about Washington over the last few weeks was this. There was some stability. We knew what we were getting with Washington. They looked like a viable football team. Yes, NFC East or not, they looked like a viable football team. A lot of that has to do with Alex Smith and the stability there. When you don't have Alex Smith under center, and it's back to Dwayne Haskins, who, let's be honest, question marks about Haskins, they're there. I mean, what's our confidence in Dwayne Haskins right now? He's got a lot to prove. I'm not going to put it past him to prove anything to us. Okay, he very well could, but it's because of that. And I was going to take Seattle anyway. That only confirms it. And the spread's 5. And I like that. I like that number. I think that's all day. I mean, you're taking Seattle -5 in Washington. Seattle, they're another team in the NFC. Okay, they're kind of getting lost in the shuffle here. They've had some hiccups over the last few weeks. Forget that Jets game last week. That's the Jets. It is what it is. But with Seattle, I think that loss to the Giants, it's still in our head, right? It's still kind of in the back of our mind. They're going to come back strong here. They're going to beat Washington. I like the number -5. I would take that all day. Let's move on to Patriots at the Dolphins. Now, I was doing a previous show earlier, and I had some disagreements with my co-host, and he took New England, and I said, no, you know what? I like Miami here. Now, his rationale was this with the Patriots. Bill Belichick against a rookie quarterback. He's terrific all time. Look at the history. When Belichick matches up against any rookie quarterback, and it's going to be Tua Tagovailoa, right? He has a lot of success. Let's not forget what happened in Week 17 last season. Miami goes into New England. Upset win for the Dolphins. They ruin New England's chances at getting a bye. That opens the door up for Kansas City, and Kansas City goes on to win the Super Bowl. So we can see a scenario where New England kind of reverses the roles here and wins in Miami and kind of spoils Miami. But Miami, they got to keep winning here. Now, they lose to Kansas City. That game looked lopsided at one point, and Miami made it close. Why is that? Miami's a good football team this year. Okay, that's the answers. I mean, on both sides of the ball, they look good. Brian Flores, big fan. I trust Brian Flores to, come up with a game plan and kind of counter what Belichick's going to do, right? Belichick's game plan is going to be revolved around Tua Tagovailoa. And, hey, we can stop him. And against rookie quarterbacks, I've done great against them. I like Miami in this game at home. I think that for Miami, this is a game that you kind of have to win. If you're going to be a legitimate contender, I'm not talking Super Bowl, I'm just talking playoff contender. If you're going to be that kind of team, you got to win this game. Okay, New England's had way too many hiccups this year. A couple of weeks ago, I would have said that New England has a path to make the playoffs. I've completely gone off that. Yes, they get blown out against the Rams, but for me, I like the Dolphins. When you're talking about a spread, it's 2. I'm taking that. If the spread was 3, okay, I would have said, you know what, just go +3 New England, because I think it might come down right to the last second. It's going to be one of those late. It's a division game. Let's not forget that's what happens in division games. But it's -2 Miami. Now I like that right there. I mean, if it was any more, I would have gone on the New England side. But I like Miami to win this outright. Jacksonville at Baltimore. Okay, this game, it's all about if it's going to be close or if Jacksonville's going to make a game of it. And then if that's the case, then we're all going to be down on Baltimore again. Baltimore's coming off a win on that Monday night game, but even though they won, I think that we're all still kind of wondering, is Baltimore still that team that we saw last year? And I think a lot of people would say no. Baltimore, they got to put their foot down. They got to win this game big. If they want to be part of that narrative that, yes, they are a contender in this conference. I've talked about Baltimore and how they're kind of getting hot here. It seems like it. A win like that can kind of spark you, right? But this is about winning big, right? And I don't think Baltimore cares. I don't think John Harbaugh cares, right? They just get the win. But you know how football works, and you know that, hey, if you're going to win big, then it kind of changes perception in a lot of people's minds. This is Jacksonville we're talking about. Baltimore's going to win this game. There's no doubt about it, okay? The spread's -13. That's a decision. If you're a bettor, you got to make that decision. If you think that Baltimore can hang in tight, I'm going to take the Ravens. I think the Ravens absolutely are capable of winning this game by 17, 20 points. I just think they are. Jacksonville, if you want to go to the Jaguars' end, they are starting Gardner Minshew again. So that's what's happening. Won't change much. Could change the spread. I haven't seen this line move too much, but this is about a statement win for Baltimore. That's what needs to happen for the Ravens. We move on. Tampa Bay at Atlanta. Okay, so divisional games are a little weird, and Atlanta kind of has, turned a corner a bit ever since they cleaned house on the coaching staff and Dan Quinn's gone, and he was coming under heat for so long. But with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, look, this team can't be stumbling into the playoffs, right? I mean, if there's any team that needs to be hot going into the new year and going into that cold weather postseason football, it's got to be Tampa Bay, right? There's just too many weapons around Tom Brady. There's still some issues with guys maybe not knowing their roles. I don't want to throw any, curveballs into the equation here, but the relationship between Brady and Bruce Arians, has that been good? I think if we were to guess, probably not. And I know a lot of things get swept under the rug, but there's definitely something going on there, right? Tampa Bay is a team that can't stumble. They got to get hot, and I'm going to take them in a game like this. I still trust Tampa Bay, okay? I think that Tampa Bay is a team that if they do get hot, then we can't deny that they're going to be a force in the playoff picture and in the playoffs. We just can't deny it. You look at the talent they have on that roster. I'm not just talking about offensively. I'm talking defensively too. They got some big-time playmakers, young playmakers on that defense, and sprinkled in if they're veterans. That's the story in Tampa. You got to win a game like this. So you look at the spread. You talk about what's happening with the Falcons and kind of how they're maybe turning a corner. The spread's -6. That's a dangerous spread if you're talking about Tampa Bay games this year. I wouldn't put it past you if you felt comfortable with going +6 Atlanta in this game. I think Tampa Bay is going to win outright. But again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know. You're looking at Tampa Bay. You're looking at the games that they've played in this year. There haven't been too many definitive victories. There have been a few for Tampa Bay. They're going to need one here. -6, dangerous spread. I wouldn't put it past you, and I wouldn't blame you if you went +6 Atlanta here. San Francisco at Dallas. The story here for me, immediately is that this was supposed to be the Sunday Night Football game. The NFL flexed it out, and instead we're going to have Cleveland and the Giants. And, look, that's one of those things where you think about it and you go, you don't really see that often where the Cowboys get flexed out of primetime games, but that's kind of the integrity. The NFL took the integrity stance here of going, hey, this game doesn't have huge implications, so let's take it out. The Browns, Giants, that's a little more exciting. I like Dallas in this game. I think Dallas can actually win outright. They got San Francisco, then Philadelphia, then the Giants. I really think they can win outright. And I think that Andy Dalton, he's getting more comfortable. I think that this offense is flowing. And let's be honest, other than Dak Prescott, and the offensive line's been terribly banged up, but, this is still that same old Cowboys team with a lot of weapons and a lot of talent. The Niners right now, this is becoming a lost season. Backup quarterback versus backup quarterback, who do you like better? I like Andy Dalton. I think Dallas is going to win this game. The spread's -3 San Francisco. I'd go +3 Dallas all day. And that's just how I look at it. And I'm looking long-term too. I think Dallas can win outright. We move on. Philadelphia at Arizona. So Philadelphia comes off a huge win. They shock New Orleans, maybe the upset of the year. And now Jalen Hurts is the guy. And he's the guy for the next 3 weeks, I would presume, unless something really crazy happens. I like Arizona here. How long can a spark like that last? I mean, it could last for the rest of the season. If you're the Eagles, you're thinking, we're hoping that Jalen Hurts can kind of lead us into the end of this year. When it comes to winning the division, it's not looking good for Philadelphia. This is a tough game in Arizona. Arizona's kind of up and down as well. I'm not praising Arizona too much, but I still like the Cardinals here. The spread might be a little much, though. -6. I mean, look, you got to be honest with yourself about Philadelphia. If you're a bettor looking at this game, you got to be thinking, hey, Philadelphia, if Jalen Hurts, that sparked the team. They looked like a different football team. They might have played the best game of the year. Do we think that they're going to lose by more than a touchdown or a touchdown? I don't know. I wouldn't blame you at all if you said +6 Philadelphia. Personally, I'm going to go -6 Arizona. 3 more games here, and Kansas City at New Orleans. Beginning of the year, you looked at this game on the schedule, you would have said one of the games of the year. Drew Brees injured, and Taysom Hill is kind of the quarterback of the future. We know that, and they get bounced by Philadelphia on the road, New Orleans. New Orleans was looking invincible at one point. They were looking like they were going to run away with not just the division, and they have, but the conference. Green Bay, though, they're right on their tails. This is kind of a big game for New Orleans, but they got the Chiefs coming in, and that doesn't spell good news. The spread here, as expected, -3 Kansas City. I'm going to take that. I trust Kansas City to walk into New Orleans, put together a game plan, and win that game. We go Sunday Night Football, Cleveland at the Giants. The Giants are a team, and I know a lot of people picked the Giants to win last week at home against Arizona, and they were incredibly disappointed. Will it happen this week? Another loss? I think it will. I think Cleveland is for real. They're going to continue that momentum. That was a primetime game on Monday night, and Cleveland, they get another one here for Sunday night. And, hey, they seem to be thriving under the pressure and under the spotlight right now. Baker Mayfield is thriving in Stefanski's system. This might be the coach of the year. They pound the rock, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. They got so many plays geared around those two guys, and then Baker kind of just, he finds his role, and it's working out great. They drafted Baker Mayfield number 1 overall in 2018. He's looking like that number 1 overall pick right now. Something that you didn't think we would say, if you fast forward or, rewind a year, you didn't think we'd be saying that about Baker Mayfield, but we are. The spread on this game, we don't have one here on Jazz Sports yet. It is relatively early in the week, but I'm going to take Cleveland to win outright. And then we go Monday night, Pittsburgh at the Bengals. Pittsburgh is incredibly lucky because they've lost 2 in a row. And if the schedule kind of turned one way or the other, they could have had a tough matchup this week, and that wouldn't have been good for the Steelers. They got to get back on track here, and they need to put their foot down. a lot like Baltimore against Jacksonville. You need Baltimore to kind of win by, 2 or 3 touchdowns. That's kind of how it has to be for you to put your foot down and make a statement. Big win, change the perception around your football team. Same thing if the Steelers. The Bengals, they look terrible against Dallas. That's a lost season. No Joe Burrow. And the Steelers, this is one of those games. You bounce back. You do it against the division rival, the worst team in the division, and you put your foot down with a statement win. It's 11 right now for the Steelers. I would be scared about 11 because I've seen how games in this division, AFC North, there's no gimmies in this division. Okay, you can be the best team in the division, playing the worst team in the division, and there's no gimmies in terms of a spread. If you went plus 11 Cincinnati, I wouldn't blame you at all. I'm going to go minus 11 Pittsburgh here just because they know, and Mike Tomlin knows, they got to put their foot down and win big, okay? Because the perception around Pittsburgh, it's changing. You lose against Washington. You lose against Buffalo. This is not the undefeated Steelers anymore, right? And this is a team that's fallen behind. We like Buffalo better than Pittsburgh. We like Kansas City a lot better than Pittsburgh. The perception is changing around the Steelers. They need a big victory on Monday Night Football. Probably won't be as good as a couple days ago Monday Night Football, but still, big victory. That is all for me on Lock It Up. My name is Logan Lockhart here on the Fines Huddle Network. We do this every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Remember, next week, Tyler Milliken from 98.5 The Sports Hub in Boston going to join me. All things MLB offseason. It's kind of been slow. There's some financial problems happening in Major League Baseball. We'll get into it all. That is next week. But thank you for watching. Enjoy the football. Remember, we have Saturday afternoon and Saturday night football this week. Until next week on Lock It Up, this is Logan Lockhart signing off.